Welcome to a game of Commander Archenemy, featuring Rob as the Archenemy, playing his Niv-Mizzet the Firemind deck. His opponents are Josh, playing my Seizan Perverter of Truth deck, Martin, playing my Maelstrom Wanderer deck, and June, playing my Numot the Devastator deck. Rob starts the game and keeps an opening hand of Sulfur Falls, Steam Vents, Mountain, Thespian Stage, Past in Flames, Chandra Firebrand, and Everflowing Chalice. Josh keeps an opening hand of Sculpting Steel, Bloodgift Demon, Bloodghast, Disciple of Bolus, Mindstone, and 2 Swamps. Martin keeps an opening hand of Skyshark Claim, Consecrated Sphinx, Solemn Simulacrum, Garrick Wildspeaker, Scalding Tarn, Misty Rainforest, and Island. June keeps an opening hand of Counterspell, Essence Scatter, Factor Fiction, Curse of the Swine, Thawing Glaciers, Flooded Strand, and Terramorphic Expanse. Rob starts by revealing his first Archenemy scheme, All in Good Time, which gives him an extra turn, minus the scheme. Rob draws Izzet Guildgate, which he plays as his land for the turn. He then goes to his next turn, untapping and drawing a mountain. He plays the mountain and then casts Everflowing Chalice, kicked once. Rob passes the turn. Josh draws Swamp, Martin draws Inferno Titan, and June draws Shattering Spree. Josh plays Swamp, Martin plays Island, and June plays Flooded Strand, and sacks it to find Steam Vents, putting it onto the battlefield untapped, dealing himself 3 damage total, and then taps it to cast Shattering Spree to shoot and destroy Rob's Chalice. The team passes the turn. Rob untaps and reveals Look Skyward and Despair, giving him a 5/5 dragon. Rob then draws Ral Zarek and plays Sulfur Falls as his land. He passes the turn. Josh draws Swamp, Martin draws Phyrexian Metamorph, and June draws Hallowed Fountain. Josh plays a Swamp and casts Mindstone. Martin plays Scalding Tarn, and June plays Hallowed Fountain untapped, dealing himself 2 damage. They pass the turn. Back to the Archenemy. Rob untaps and reveals Introductions are in order, with Rob choosing to search up a creature and put it into his hand. Rob finds and reveals Psychosis Crawler. Rob then draws Izzet Charm. Rob plays Thespian Stage, then taps out to cast Ral Zarek, which June counterspells. Rob then attacks June with his 5/5 dragon, dealing him 5 damage. He passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws Demonic Tutor. Martin draws Forest, and June draws Plains. Josh plays Swamp, Martin plays Forest, June plays Thawing Glaciers. Josh then taps 3 to cast Sculpting Steel to copy his Mindstone. He then taps out to cast Demonic Tutor to search his library for Gauntlet of Power and put it into his hand. They then pass the turn. Rob untaps and schemes Every Hope Shall Vanish, thought seizing all opponents. Rob takes Curse of the Swine from June, Solemn Simulacrum from Martin, and the Gauntlet Josh just tutored for. Rob then draws Intuition and plays a mountain. He attacks June again for 5 with his dragon. Rob then taps out for Psychosis Crawler, which June Essence Scatters. He passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws Buried Ruin. Martin draws Explore, and June draws Oblation. Martin sacks both of his sack lands and gets 2 lands. Josh plays Buried Ruin and casts Bloodgift Demon. June puts Terramorphic Expanse onto the battlefield. Martin then casts Skyshark Claim, putting a Tropical Island and Stomping Ground onto the battlefield. They pass the turn. Rob untaps and reveals Dan's Pathetic Marionette, which makes Rob's opponents reveal cards from the tops of their libraries until they reveal creatures. Josh reveals Solemn Simulacrum, Martin reveals Sower of Temptation, and June reveals Phyrexian Metamorph. Rob takes Sower and uses its ETB effect to also take Josh's Demon. Rob then triggers his upkeep effects to draw a card and lose a life. Rob draws Island off the Demon and Nivix Guildmage for his turn. Rob then plays Island as his land for the turn. Rob attacks June with his dragon, and in response, June sacks his Terramorphic Expanse and searches the library for an island and puts it onto the battlefield, and then uses Thawing Glaciers to put a mountain onto the battlefield. June takes 5 damage. Post-combat, Rob casts Chandra Firebrand and pluses it to deal June 1 damage. Rob passes the turn. Josh untaps and draws Infernal Darkness. Martin untaps and draws Steam Vince, while June untaps and draws Compulsive Research. Martin plays Steam Vince, tapped, and Josh plays Swamp. June plays Plains. Martin casts Inferno Titan, and when it ETBs, Martin deals 2 damage to the Sower of Temptation, killing it and returning Blood Gift Demon to Josh, and deals 1 damage to Chandra Firebrand. Josh casts Bloodghast, and then taps out to cast Seizan, Sex Offender from his command zone. They pass the turn. Rob untaps and schemes into Introductions Are in Order. Rob opts to search up Izzet Paragon and put it into his hand. Rob draws 2 extra cards and loses 2 life from Seizan during his upkeep, and then draws Mountain during his main phase. Rob plays Mountain and attacks June with his dragon, starting to put June near the danger zone. Rob then casts Mercurial Chemister and punches June for 1 with Chandra. In response, June Factor Fictions, putting Mizzet Mortars and Plains into his hand. Rob passes the turn. The team untaps their lands and draws 3 cards, and each loses 2 life, with Josh losing an extra life and drawing an extra card off the Bloodgift Demon. They each play a land, and Martin casts Gilded Lotus and Consecrated Sphinx. June casts Numot the Devastator from his command zone. They then go to their combat step. Martin attacks Rob with Inferno Titan and deals 3 damage to Mercurial Chemister with his attack ability. Josh attacks Chandra with Bloodgift Demon, and Rob with Bloodghast and Seizan, dealing Rob 14 damage and 6 commander. Post-combat, Josh plays Infernal Darkness, and in response, Rob floats a red and a blue mana. Josh then casts Contamination for redundancy. Josh then passes the turn, but before switching phases, Rob Cyclonic Rips Contamination, returning it to Josh's hand. Rob untaps and schemes Perhaps You've Met My Cohort, searching up Jace the Mind Sculptor and putting it into play. Rob draws 3 cards and loses 2 life. Martin draws 6 cards off of his Sphinx. Rob plays Steam Vince, losing another 2 life. Rob brainstorms with Jace and then casts Gilded Lotus. Rob then taps the Gilded Lotus and casts Savor the Moment, taking an extra turn and revealing another scheme. He attacks Josh with his dragon for 5. Rob passes the turn to himself. Rob doesn't untap and reveals the scheme Behold the Power of Destruction, destroying all of Josh's non-land permanents and allowing him to tap lands for blue and red mana again. But Josh forgets to destroy his artifacts. Rob draws and plays Reliquary Tower and then bounces Numot with Jace. Rob then casts Rhystic Study and passes the turn. Josh draws Yawgmoth's Will, Martin draws Rite of Replication, and June draws Control Magic. June plays Plains, Martin plays Temple of the False God, and Josh plays Swamp, triggering Bloodghast landfall ability. Martin casts Sylvan Primordial, blowing up Jace, the Mind Sculptor, paying for Rhystic Study and searching up a forest and putting it onto the battlefield tapped. June then casts Control Magic, taking Rob's tapped dragon, not paying for Rhystic Study. He then Oblations Gilded Lotus, also not paying for Study, giving Rob a total of 4 cards. Martin casts Phyrexian Metamorph, copying Gilded Lotus, and then casts Ranger's Path, putting 2 forests onto the battlefield taps. Josh recasts Contamination. Martin then attacks Rob for 13 with his Consecrated Sphinx and his Inferno Titan. They pass the turn. Rob untaps and reveals My Wish Is Your Command, letting him play Karn from Martin's hand and uses it to exile Josh's Contamination. Rob then casts Intuition, finding Time Stop, Walk the Eons, and Time Warp. Martin puts Walk the Eons into Rob's hand, and then Rob casts Walk the Eons and takes an extra turn. Rob untaps and reveals I Know All, I See All, which is an ongoing scheme. Rob draws Brainstorm and then taps 10 to cast Time Stretch, targeting himself, and taking 2 extra turns. Rob exiles a card from Josh's hand with Karn and then passes the turn to himself. Rob untaps and reveals Realms Befitting My Majesty, giving him 2 tapped basic lands. Rob draws Rings of Brighthearth. Rob casts Izzet Paragon, revealing Temple of the False God off the top of his library. Rob targets June with Karn, exiling Mizzet Mortars, and then passes the turn, but in response, Josh Go for the Throats, Melek killing it. Rob then goes to his last turn. Rob untaps and schemes into plots that span centuries, giving him 3 plots during his next turn. Rob draws and plays Temple of the False God. Rob taps 4 and casts Past in Flames, targeting Time Stretch, targeting himself. The team plays it out for a few more turns, but Rob keeps scheming into goodness, and they decide to call it, claiming another victory for the Archenemy.